All right, let's talk about something that trips up just about everyone working with data, SQL dialects. You think you're learning this one language and then suddenly, bam, you're hit with a dozen different names. Let's clear this up once and for all.
Does this screen give you a little bit of anxiety? Yeah, it happens to a lot of us. You start your SQL journey feeling good, and then you're just bombarded with these things. T-SQL, PL-SQL, PL/PG-SQL. It feels like, wait a minute, do I have to learn 10 different languages now? It's frustrating, I get it. But I promise you, it is so much simpler than it looks.
Okay, here it is. This is the single most important idea that will make everything else click. These are not different languages. Just think of them as different accents of the exact same language. Someone from London, someone from Texas, and someone from Scotland. They all speak English. They totally understand each other, but they might use different slang, maybe some different phrasing. That is literally all that's going on here with SQL.
So let's just make that official. We have one core language, but it's spoken in many different flavors, or as we call them, dialects.
So, you've got the official standard, right? SQL, Structured Query Language. Think of that as the original textbook, the Queen's English, if you will. But then, all the big companies that make databases, we're talking Microsoft, Oracle, you name it, they take that textbook and they add their own chapters, their own special features to make it faster or more powerful. And those additions, that's what creates their unique dialect.
All right, so who are the main players out there? Who are the ones you're actually going to run into in the real world? Let's meet them.
First up, you have Microsoft's absolute powerhouse, T-SQL, which stands for Transact SQL. If you're working in the Microsoft ecosystem with things like SQL Server or their massive cloud platform Azure, this is your world. It's everywhere in big corporations and even government systems like the NHS. And then you have the other giant in the room, PL/SQL. This is the language of Oracle. For decades, this has been the bedrock for the world's biggest companies, especially in banking and finance. It's known for being incredibly robust and powerful for handling really complex stuff.
And this table here kind of lays out the whole landscape for you. You can see the company, the name of their dialect, and where you'll typically find it. You've got Microsoft's T-SQL for corporate stuff, Oracle's PL/SQL for finance, then there's PostgreSQL, which is just huge in the world of AI and analytics. MySQL powers a massive chunk of the internet. And of course you have the new kids on the block, the cloud platforms like Snowflake and BigQuery, which are built for absolutely massive scale data analytics.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. Seeing that whole list might feel a little intimidating all over again. But hang on, because we're about to get to the absolute best part of this whole thing. This is the most reassuring fact you're going to hear about SQL. Just look at that number, 90%. Here's the deal. If you learn one dialect, and I mean any one of them, you already, right out of the gate, understand about 90% of all the others. You're never ever starting from scratch. You're just learning a little bit of the local slang.
So what's in that magical 90%? Well, it's everything that matters. It's the absolute core of the language, the building blocks for pretty much every single query you will ever write. We're talking select, from, where, group by, all the greatest hits. These commands are the universal grammar of SQL, and they work almost exactly the same no matter where you go.
Okay, so if 90% of it is the same, what about that other 10%? This is where the fun stuff is. Let's talk about those little accents and bits of slang that make each dialect unique.
This is the perfect example. It's such a simple task, right? Just get me the current date and time. Well, in Microsoft's T-SQL, you use getDate. Hop over to MySQL, and it's nowDate. And if you're in Oracle, it's sysdate. See? They all do the exact same thing. They just call it something slightly different. That's a dialect difference in a nutshell.
So besides simple function names, these differences usually pop up in a few key places. Things like how they structure blocks of code, the little symbols you use for variables, how they handle errors, and yeah, the names of built-in functions like getting the length of a string. These are the little details you just do a quick search for when you switch systems. No big deal.
All right, so putting this all together, what does this actually mean for you? How should you approach learning SQL to get the most out of your time? Let's build a clear roadmap. Look, if your goal is to work in some of today's most exciting fields, like automation, AI, or on huge data systems like you'd find in healthcare, you shouldn't just pick a dialect at random. You've got to be strategic about it to give yourself the biggest advantage. So here it is, your game plan.
Number one, top priority, has to be T-SQL. It's the language that runs the entire Microsoft data universe. Azure, Power BI, SQL Server. It's the backbone for so many big companies and public sector organizations. After you're comfortable there, your next move is PostgreSQL. It's the darling of the AI and modern analytics world. And after that, knowing some MySQL is super useful, especially if you ever work with web apps.
And this is the beauty of this strategy. You can master T-SQL and build an entire project that talks to SQL Server in Azure. Then, down the road, if you need to make it work with a different database, you're not starting over from square one. You're just adapting your logic. You're just translating that little 10% of slang.